Welcome back to Kinship Caregivers Sanctuary, a space for grandparents and relatives raising children. I'm Jackie, your host. I'm a kinship caregiver, an author, and advocate for caregivers who are walking this journey. This is a space where we speak honestly about the challenges, the healing, and the strength it takes to raise the next generation. This month in the sanctuary, we are focusing on supporting the caregiver because while you are caring for others, you deserve care as well. So before we go any further, I want to invite you into a small reset. I invite you to take a breath, get settled, whether you're sitting, lying down, or moving through your day. Just allow yourself to soften a little. If you have something comforting nearby, a blanket, a cup of tea, even just a quiet space, lean into that because this moment is for you, not for what needs to be done next, not for who needs you later, but for you. And we spend so much time holding everything together, staying strong, staying present for everyone else. But you deserve moments where you can simply be held. So release a little of the tension, slow your thoughts, and let yourself be here. And from this place of slowing down and settling in, today we are talking about something that can feel difficult, but is deeply necessary. Protecting your peace through boundaries and what that really looks like in real life. We're not talking about walls, not disconnection, but boundaries that support you and support your child. Because when you are raising a child, especially one that needs stability, consistency, and emotional safety, your peace matters. Your regulation matters. The environment that you create matters. There are situations in this journey, especially when it comes to family, where things can feel complicated, emotional, and sometimes even triggering. And when we're navigating relationships with adult children or other family members, it's not always simple. There's history, there's love, there's concern, and sometimes there's behavior that can disrupt the peace you're trying to create for your child. And I've had moments where I've had to pause and ask myself, what does my child need most right now? And sometimes the answer isn't easy. Sometimes it required me to choose differently than I had before. But before we go any further, I want to gently ground us in what we mean when we talk about boundaries. So, a boundary is a loving limit you set to protect your peace, your energy, and your well being without needing others to agree, understand, or approve. So, I'm going to say that again because this is so important. A boundary is a loving limit you set to protect your peace and well being without needing others to agree. Boundaries are not about controlling other people. They are about honoring yourself. They're not punishment, they are protection. And as caregivers, especially those of us carrying so much, holding so much, we need that protection. Because when everything around us feels like it needs something from us, Boundaries are what gently say, this is where I end, and this is what I need to stay well. And you are allowed to honor that, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's new, even if others don't understand. You are still allowed to choose your peace. Love often shows up in the form of boundaries because boundaries don't push people away, they actually protect the relationship. When we don't set boundaries, when we overextend, when we keep saying yes, when we silence what we need, we slowly begin to lose ourselves in the process. And over time, that creates distance anyway. Resentment, exhaustion, disconnection. So, in truth, a boundary is not rejection, it's an attempt to preserve the relationship. It's saying, I care enough about this connection to show up in a way that is honest, healthy, and sustainable. Because if I don't set a boundary, I may not be able to stay in this relationship at all. And that's something we don't always talk about. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do is create a limit that allows the relationship to continue in a way that doesn't cost us our peace. So as we move forward, I want you to begin thinking about your boundaries, not as walls, but as care for for yourself and for the relationships you want to keep. Boundaries are about protecting what matters. And when you're a caregiver, what matters is your child's sense of safety, your child's emotional regulation, the consistency of your environment, and also your own peace, your own capacity, and your own well being. Because here's something we don't always say out loud. When your environment feels unstable, your child feels it, especially children who are sensitive or who are always working hard to regulate their emotions. Yeah, ask me how I know, because I've lived it and I'm living it. So protecting your peace is not selfish. It is supportive. Let's talk about boundaries with adult children. That this can be one of the hardest parts of this journey because yes, there's love there, but there may also be patterns or situations that are not healthy for you or your child. And boundaries might look like, I'm not able to support in that way right now. Or we need to keep things calm and consistent for him. Or this is what I can do, and this is what I can't do. And I know that can feel heavy. I've had to walk that road myself. And so let me give you a real example of what this can look like. One of the boundaries my therapist helped me to set was around phone calls with Micah's mom. Before this, the calls could happen at any time, even right before bed. And what I noticed was after those calls, there was a lot to hold. There were big emotions, heaviness, sometimes dysregulation. And then I was trying to help him settle while carrying that weight. And I realized I couldn't let him go to sleep like that, not holding all of those feelings by himself. So I set a boundary. We created specific times for those calls, times that gave us space afterward for co-regulation, for connection, for things to settle. And again, that boundary wasn't about control. It wasn't about punishment. It was about care. Care for him and care for me. Because protecting his peace meant protecting mine too. And that's what boundaries can do. They create space for us to show up in the way our children actually need and in the way we need as well. So sometimes the boundaries isn't about saying no, it's about saying not like this, not at this time, not in a way that disrupts our peace. And then with extended family, boundaries might look like limiting certain conversations, protecting your child from overstimulation, choosing when and how you engage. Because not every space is a safe space. And it's okay to recognize that. I want to speak to something that often comes with boundaries. Oh, the guilt. Sometimes a lot of it. You might feel like you're being too firm or not doing enough, or you're letting someone down. But I do want to remind you that choosing peace for your child and for yourself is not something you need to feel guilty about. You are not responsible for how others feel about your boundaries. You are responsible for the environment you create for your child. So if you're navigating this right now, here are a few gentle reminders. First, start small. Boundaries don't have to be big or dramatic. They can be simple and steady. Secondly, stay consistent because consistency builds safety for you and your child. And safety is what allows both of you to breathe. Third, be compassionate with yourself. This is definitely not easy work. You are learning how to protect your peace while still holding love for others. But before we close today, I want to leave you with this. You are allowed to create a space that feels calm, safe, and supportive. You are allowed to protect that space, even when it's hard. And every time you choose peace, you are also choosing stability for your child. Even in small ways, it matters. Peace in your home doesn't happen by accident. It's created one boundary at a time. So thank you so much for spending time in the sanctuary today. If this episode resonated with you, I hope you'll carry this with you. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. They're about protecting what matters most. You are not alone. Your reflection in today's sanctuary, I want you to think about where you might need to create or strengthen a boundary to protect your peace. If you feel led, I'd love to hear from you. Join my VIP list, connect with me, and share your story at your own pace. You can email me at kinshipcaregiverssanctuary@gmail.com, and I'll meet you here next time.